Linda for our In Case You Missed It segment, in case you missed some of these, stories that people are talking about. Mm-hmm. And you got a couple good ones today.
So I'm going to start off with a question.
Okay.
Did you go to your prom?
I did.
You did?
Yeah.
Like just one, or did you go to several, or?
I went to actually a couple.
Really?
Did you?
No. I never went to my prom. So first of all, these days, it's like the whole big thing, right? I mean, the promposal where you got to get creative and, make it all fancy, and you can't just ask a girl to the prom. I guess maybe girls ask guys these days. I don't know. But no, I did not, because I was kind of a nerd, and actually, I do have to say this.
What?
I'm gonna say his name on TV or on whatever we're doing here, digital. When I was in high school, I had this friend whose daddy was a Church of Christ minister, my friend Ken, and he asked me to the prom. I thought he was joking, because I was like, no, nobody's asked, because I didn't date, and I didn't, I was like, nobody's asking me to the prom. And so I kind of was like, ha, ha, ha. So I sort of laughed. Poor guy. I think he was serious. And I pretty much laughed at him, I guess.
Oh my goodness, Gravere.
So a bunch of girls.
mean.
So my girlfriends and I actually went out to eat, and we went to the movies that night, and we went to see this Clint Eastwood movie, Every Which Way But Loose. Do you remember that one? That's an oldie, but yes, that's what we did prom. But this story is about prom. Okay.
Okay.
So when the
show this
pandemic,
video.
when the
Don't
pandemic
show
hit,
it,
a lot of young people missed out on their prom, right?
Sure.
So in Wisconsin, they're calling this a second chance prom.
Okay, that makes sense.
Madison senior class, this is Madison High School, officers there hosted a prom for students that didn't get to go to their prom in 2020. Most of them are college students who graduated. They were high school seniors when COVID-19 hit. Now, because of that, they didn't get to go to their prom. Gracie Nelson is a university senior class president, and she says they wanted to do something special for the soon-to-be graduates, so they decided that they were going to give them their very own prom. Here's what she had to say.
Okay.
I think you don't even realize how much you've lost until you watch like the freshmen and you're like, oh my gosh, we didn't get any of that. And so I do think that while I've had the best 4 years and really wouldn't change any of it, I think there's a new excitement about graduation and events and things like this.
Okay, Gravere. I mean, so this is a nice idea.
It's pretty cool, and actually more than 800 people got tickets to this event. So,
Wow.
like, I've heard of proms for older people, like seniors, that they do proms, but I thought that was a pretty cool idea. Got another talker today.
Okay.
Remember yesterday, I don't know if we talked about this, but we talked about it on Atlanta News First in the morning. We told you about the search for a wiener connoisseur. That was somebody who was going to go to all these different ballparks across the country, and they were actually going to search for the biggest wiener at all these ballparks, measure it, and all of that, and they got paid for it. Well, now the American Dairy Association of Northeast is looking for a chief ice cream officer. So this is how this works. You get to drive through Pennsylvania. I don't know, is Pennsylvania like big for ice cream?
If
Dairy
it is,
country? I don't
was
think
not
of
aware of
Pennsylvania as
that.
dairy country, but anyway, they get to drive through Pennsylvania eating ice cream, and you document your experience on social media. You've got to be 18 years old. You got to have, basically your own car and be able to drive. And it pays $5,000.
It pays $5,000. I feel
I'm like, you'd spend $5,000 on fuel, wouldn't you? Just driving
Oh,
through
my
Pennsylvania,
goodness.
as expensive as gas is these days. And you can apply on TikTok and Instagram.
I feel like they're going to get a lot of applications for this.
Maybe some young people, like somebody
Well,
who
'cause
just thinks somebody who thinks this is going to be their claim to fame, and they're going to go,
Yeah, probably.
go viral on
Like a
TikTok
YouTube,
or
yeah, like a wannabe
Instagram or
YouTube
something, and
star.
become like an ice cream influencer.
That's probably
That's
true.
what we should do, Joy. You want to become an ice cream
No,
influencer?
I don't. I mean, first of all, I'm vegan, so it would have to be vegan ice cream. That's going to
Okay.
be a little bit limited. But second of all, I don't think I can just quit my job for weeks on end and then,
go
be
drive?
like, hey, boss, okay, I'm ready to come
I know.
back. I don't think that would work.
So maybe this is for that young person who's graduating high school,
Yes.
but hasn't started college yet, and might be kind of a fun thing to do.
Yeah, I think you hit the nail on the head. And somebody
Okay.
who wants to be like a social media influencer.
Influencer,
Yeah,
right?
no, I think so.
So
I
we'll
think
leave you
so.
on that note today.
Okay. Well,
All
I think you're helping them get a lot of applications right now.
Have a good day.
Have a great day. Thank you so much, Gurveer. Okay, I want to get to some of the other stories that we are sharing with our viewers right now. Sorry, I am managing the graphics and the video at the same time, so a little bit of lag time there. But I want to make sure that you didn't miss the story that we have been covering about a shortage of life-saving drugs, potentially life-saving drugs that are now in short supply. And in some cases, these are drugs that are used to fight serious diseases like cancer and diabetes in critically short supply. This is a nationwide drug shortage. It's impacting families across Georgia and really around the country. Atlanta News First reporter Abby Kasouris reports on pharmacists warning patients about this growing crisis.
The American Society of Health Systems Pharmacists is reporting the largest drug shortage on record. More than 300 drugs are hard to find, and some don't have equivalents. A shortage of these drugs for cancer treatments, ADHD medicine, and diabetes, leading to rationing in some hospital systems and pharmacies.
Welcome to Five Hours Pharmacy. Kevin speaking. May I help you?
Kevin Pierre is a compound pharmacist, meaning when there's a nationwide shortage, he can make some medicine himself, like amoxicillin, Tamiflu, and children's Tylenol, but some of the raw materials for the big drugs are hard to get.
Yesterday I received a phone call. They were looking for D50, right, which is dextrose, a sugar-based injectable, and there's none in the country.
The American Society of Health Systems Pharmacists found that the average drug shortage lasts a year and a half. The issues driving the problem are low supply, high demand, limited manufacturing capabilities and raw materials, and low profit margins for big companies.
We need a list of 100 of them that are absolutely critical and said, hey, these are the incentives we're going to give to companies that are willing to make those here.
Pierre says look at the backs of some of the bottles. Whether raw or manufactured, he says most come from out of the country.
You choose any drug at random. Anyone. I just put my hand on one. Anyone at random. Right? China. I'm gonna choose I'll choose another one at a random. China. That's our problem. The American people suffer. We didn't have these problems when manufacturing was here.
The Federal Trade Commission issued something called a request for information to try to solve the problem. They're getting input from wholesalers, patients, and pharmacists to try to come up with a solution. In Smyrna, I'm Abby Kasouris.
Thanks so much to Abby for that report. I want to let you know now that the Fulton County Board of Elections is under new leadership. So this comes after the resignation of Chairwoman Patrice Perkins Hooker last week. Her replacement is a familiar name for many people. County leaders working quickly to fill the role. Here's Doug Reardon with more.
Yeah, it was important for commissioners to get this done today because, of course, we have that big primary election coming up on May 21st. I'm political reporter Doug Reardon from downtown Atlanta. They ended up confirming Kathy Woolard, who is certainly no stranger to people familiar with Fulton County elections. Woolard is the next chair of the County Elections Board, but not necessarily the new one. That's because she already held the position of chair before Perkins Hooker took over a year ago. She's very familiar with what this role requires, how the systems work, and commissioners said that is mainly what they were looking for with that big primary election coming up in a month and then the general presidential election in November. They made it very clear the state's largest county needs somebody capable at the helm.
I realize this is kind of poor timing for a chair to step down, and we need someone who can pick up the gavel right away and lead our election department.
As far as her leadership and being able to effectively chair the Board of Registration and Elections, I believe she can do it. I believe at this juncture, with an election on the way, this needs to be seamless.
Woolard is also a former member of the Atlanta City Council. She was its first openly gay member and also its first female president. From downtown Atlanta, Doug Reardon, Atlanta News First.
Thanks so much to political reporter Doug Reardon for that story. Okay, let's talk about just forming some healthy habits such as walking and how these things can really be life-changing. And we know that life can be busy, chaotic, stressful, but These sorts of things not only are good for the health, but they make life richer and more meaningful for many people. Sawyer Bussey has a closer look.
Jamie Lackey does not have the time.
You know, we manage a fairly large team in 2 different states and 3 different offices.
But she makes the time so she can put in the time.
Good habits give really positive order. It makes your day, your routine, it's the one thing you can count on every day.
She is the CEO of Helping Mamas.
So Helping Mamas is a baby supply and period supply bank here in Georgia. We collect and distribute essential baby items and period products, and we distribute those out to families that need us the most. And we've been doing this now. This year's our 10th year.
But she makes time every morning to get her body moving.
There's just something about being outside and letting the problems of life float through your head and come up with solutions. That's what I do when I walk, when I exercise.
She says it's a simple habit that has changed her life for the better.
I know that there's this time every day that I'm going to get that's just for me.
And you don't have to be an athlete to do the same. In fact, she says you just have to find a couple of minutes. Life moves fast, and we might ignore our own needs in order to care for the people we love. But making time for yourself might just be one of the ways to build a richer, more meaningful life. So it is the little steps that make a big difference?
Yeah, absolutely.
In Norcross, Sawyer Bussey, Atlanta News First.
And thanks so much to Sawyer for that report. You can find much more about that on atlantanewsfirst.com or our free mobile news app, where, of course, you can get all of our top stories and your full First Alert weather forecast. Thank you so much for being with us. I'm going to return you now to Local News Live. Have a great day.